Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Good morning. Welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Marlene Cuellar.
And I'm Gavin Courtney.
And thank you for joining us this morning.
It's a beautiful Tuesday morning.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And we're going to be getting our weather update right in a sec. So hopefully the good weather that's showing right now is going to last.
They are.
And we've got our forecaster, Angelia Guy, on the line. Good morning.
Morning.
How are you doing?
I'm okay, and you?
I'm pretty good. Let's talk about our weather. What does our general situation look like for today?
Okay, we have fair, mostly dry weather conditions over the country under a moderate east to southeasterly airflow.
Okay, and our 24-hour forecast?
We're expecting continuing fair weather and warm temperatures across the country, and we expect little or no rainfall.
Okay. And what about our winds?
Okay, the winds will be from the east and southeast at 10 to 20 knots.
Okay, let's talk temperatures. What do the high temperatures look like?
Okay, high temperatures today will peak at about 89 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 94 inland, and about 80 in the hills.
And tonight?
Tonight, the low temperatures will range from about 80 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 72 inland, and 64 in the hills.
All right, and our extended forecast as we get into the middle of the week?
Okay, we expect continued fair weather and warm temperatures for much of tomorrow and Thursday. Slight increase in moisture probably late Thursday or Friday.
Okay, and what about our fire forecast?
Okay, we have with the warm and mainly fair weather prevailing, we expect the risk for brush and forest fires to remain high today and tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Well, Angelia, thank you so much for that update.
You're welcome.
Right, and have a great day.
Thank you.
All right. Warm.
Warm and dry.
That's right. And definitely paying attention to that fire forecast. We know this is a time of year we start seeing the fires popping up all over. So we do hope, especially for people who are living in rural areas and may use fire as a part of their agricultural practices, that they keep that in mind.
No, absolutely.
All right, we're going to keep things moving this morning. We got our motivation, and that means it's time for Eye Opener. And our Eye Opener for today goes like this. Living in fear of sounding intelligent can rob your friends of knowing the real you. The universal need to be accepted by others can be a barrier that prevents us from being ourselves around them. When we fear that the people we encounter will perceive us as inept or unintelligent, we frequently try to flaunt or our grasp of large words or clever witticisms or professional expertise in an effort to convince them that we are smart and capable. The reasons for feeling this way can be many, and they can often stem from as far back as your childhood. Many women in particular have the fear that they may appear not smart. Yet, overcompensating for this fear can have the opposite effect if others are driven away by what they see as an immodest attitude or sense that you are urgently trying to prove yourself. The simple desire to be judged smart by both new and old acquaintances can cause you to reject your true self and adopt an affected persona. But in trying so persistently to project an image of supreme intelligence or capability, you deny others the opportunity to become acquainted with the real and terrific individual you truly are.
It's an interesting one. I was almost laughing in the beginning of the eye-opener when it said that living in fear of sounding intelligent can rob you of your friends. And I thought maybe a lot of people have this fear. This could explain a lot. No, but on a serious note, I think it is talking about a feeling that a lot of us can relate to. And I think it goes both ways, both in the sense that a lot of, you know, based on what we've, on our own observation, sometimes you've seen people clearly who are trying to overcompensate, as they said, or and you know, they're using big words, and especially it kind of, and it also grinds my gears when they use them wrongly, because that a lot of the time you can tell as well. And the essence of the eye opener is that it's true. It's because it's not really you, and so it's something that you're projecting, or it's some sort of like a front that you're trying to put on to create some sort of an image or an impression that you probably want to see with others, to try to impress them, or at least compensate for maybe some insecurity that you have about, you know, not sounding intelligent, as what they say. But I think that one, if you relax and allow people to show you the real you, that sort of authenticity is what really resonates. And I also think that when it comes to, you know, the actual words you use, I think that what really matters is just how well you're able to express yourself. And that sort of articulation doesn't really depend on, you know, having big words, or, you know, it's just the clarity. And I frequently, you know, I think about this in terms of like song lyrics. Sometimes I hear things that are so clever, and it doesn't really matter the genre. So sometimes it's like dance hall or soca or something, and it's, you know, it's not using a whole lot of big words, but the way how they can express themselves is really clever. And I think that that's what we have to build more confidence in, that sort of authenticity.
And of course, that kind of clarity helps to build connection, which is really what you're trying to do when you want to communicate a message. I love the eye opener, and I think you touched on the two things that really sprung into mind as I was reading it. The first is definitely looking at authenticity. If you were trying to present a particular persona all the time, you're not giving people the opportunity to learn who you are. You're trying to put forward that facade, and especially with friends. And I guess that's why it starts with that one. With the people you're close with the people you have to interact with, you really do miss the opportunity to connect with people and have them see and understand more of who you are. And I think naturally we gravitate to people who, even if just seemingly so, are more authentic, that they're comfortable in their own skin, as comfortable as one can be with strangers or friends. And so I think that's the first thing that came to mind. The second is that it's overcoming that fear that you have sometimes for whatever knowledge gap you may think you have. It's that opportunity and also, I think, teachable moment where you can say, well, I don't know. I don't understand. And what that does a lot of times is it gives other people the opportunity to really step in and help you. And it can build a lot for relationships with friends and other people that you interact with. So when you get into this situation and you're trying to overcompensate somehow, you really don't allow people to see that the true humanness that you have, that we're not all encompassing know-it-alls about everything, and that sometimes we can be supportive towards each other when we can simply acknowledge the little fact that there are things that you are better at, or you may have a better grasp at than I do, and we can have a relationship where we can build on that.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think
we learn this on the show, though, all the time, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We have experts every day. We're like...
try to break it down. Yeah. It's interesting because I can remember, you know, when I was in law school, of course, this is something that when we do sort of advocacy training, especially like for the courtroom setting, one of the things that they tried to instill in us was that, you know, you have to read the room, and that you can't, you know, especially like, you know, people, you know, you may be dealing with you're not just dealing with other attorneys and judges, you know, you have witnesses, you have other litigants. If you're in criminal matters, you might have juries. And, you know, the way you speak to people makes a huge difference. And, you know, so there was always like, don't try to project this, you know, very intelligent lawyer image, because, you know, especially, sometimes you just end up confusing people. One, you get the opposite effect of what you want a lot of the time.
They don't want to listen to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times they don't even understand because you're trying to, create this this big persona, and then you use words, and that, it's not just ordinary language, or you try to like fill everything with, with legal jargon, and you expect people to answer a question. So it's the same thing that applies to, that's one way of looking at it as well. So, we have where you're trying to impress people, but you also have, and it may not be coming from a place of overcompensation, but it just might be because of some, let's just call it insecurity. So it's an image that you project. So I think that, read the room and be as authentic as you possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely. Great eye-opener for today. It is, of course, Tuesday, and we do want to remind people. I got to tell you, Gavin. So when we came here to Channel 5, I saw that the Mercy Clinic has a line of people who are starting to line up for their vaccinations, and I've just been thinking over the past week just how lucky we are that we are at this phase, that people are going out, they're getting their vaccination. The current rollout is still phase 1. So that I think they've covered all the healthcare workers so far, and they're working with the over 60 groups and the vulnerable populations, which include those with cancer, those on dialysis, and those who have HIV. So those are the people who can access vaccines right now. And what they've done is in Belize City, and I know in other municipalities as well, they've opened up spaces where people can go and get vaccinated. So for this week, the Ministry of Health is at the SJC Gym in Belize City on the north side, and at Swift Hall next to St. Martin's Church. And they are offering vaccinations without appointment, which means you just show up and go once you are one of the people in Group 1.
No, absolutely, and the ministry, of course, is encouraging people to come out and get vaccinated if you are in one of the eligible groups. Of course, this is a great step, as Marlene said, and it's super significant to think about all that has happened in the past year and to where we are today. And even if you do, and if you fall into one of the categories, think about it in the sense that you're not only helping yourself and protecting yourself, you're also contributing to the reduction of the spread of the virus as well. So, get vaccinated if you can, and then of course we'll keep you updated as the phases of the vaccine rollout continues to go on, so that when you're eligible, you'll be able to find out how you can get your vaccination as well. All right. But we do have to get into our show for this morning, and we've got lots of interesting conversations lined up for you. So our first conversation is going to be our COVID-19 update, and we are going to be talking with some teachers this morning. Of course, there's been lots of news about the government's proposed wage cut for public servants, and of course that does include teachers. So we're going to actually be getting a perspective from some teachers on what that would mean for them if the cuts were implemented as they are currently presented.
All right. And the second part of our show, we're going to be talking to 2 social workers. International Social Workers Day is coming up, and we're going to find out from them just about some of the work that they're doing, why they chose this profession, and the rewards that they get from it.
And finally, we are going to be hearing from some representatives of the Forestry Department, and we're going to be talking all about forest management in 2021. Of course, there's a whole lot of issues, especially right now we're facing related to the wildfires. So we're going to get an update from their department as our final conversation for this morning. But before we go to the break, we do have some birthday shout-outs this morning, and we've got 2 of them. So we want to give or send a very, very happy birthday to Mervyn Boudram and
Charlotte Banner.
All right.
We want to say happy birthday to them.
Yep. So from all of us at Open Your Eyes and Channel 5, we hope you have a great day. Happy birthday and many more.
And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, we'll have the teachers explain to us what the salary cuts and increment freeze means to them. That's coming up in a few. Stay tuned.
It's a fact that you can access unlimited services with Smart. Tired of being measured or cut off when you need to be connected? It's a fact that when you sign up for Smart's Plus plan, you get unlimited talk, text, and unlimited data. And it's a fact that you can sign up with your group of up to 5 members for Smart's Share plans and up to 40 members for Smart's Enterprise plans for unlimited talk, text, and data. Smart has the true unlimited plans. That's a fact. Be smart and live smart.
Ubuntu. I am because we are strengthening social solidarity and global connectedness. Ubuntu is the theme of World Social Work Month. World Social Work Month recognizes the profession of social work and highlight the important role social workers play in their communities. Social workers are essential and are the unsung heroes. As social workers, we strive to empower those from all walks of life. Our tools are compassion, service, and determination. Our armor is a love for humanity. With persistence in the face of insurmountable odds, we help clients access services and systems to achieve their goals. No matter the circumstances, we jump into the fray Ubuntu. As we celebrate World Social Work Day on March 16th, the Ministry of Human Development, Families and Indigenous Peoples Affairs and the Government of Belize thank all social workers for their compassion, sacrifice, and dedication to service.
In these challenging times, the one thing that is certain is that the Belize Bank Limited is here for you. There is nothing more important than your health and safety, and we continue to make every effort to make banking safer for you. Our staff is working around the clock to make sure you can do your banking conveniently 24/7 using our mobile banking app and online banking and keeping ATMs up and running. We value your relationship with us and are here to provide the support you need. First responders are also out there 24/7. Thank you, healthcare workers, security forces, firefighters, caregivers. You are all appreciated. Stay safe. We will get through this together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
Today's COVID update is brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
And we're back. And if you're joining us right now, we are just getting our first conversation started. And as we said earlier, we are joined by some teachers today, and we're going to be talking all about what the effect of the proposed 10% salary cut and increment freeze would mean for them. So we have 2 teachers from Mount Carmel High School to join us this morning. We have Miguel Bonilla and Kelvin Requena. Good morning.
Hello, good morning, and thank you for having us. It's really a joy to be here.
Well,
good morning as well.
Yeah, great. And it's thank you so much for joining us, and it's good to have you as well. Now, let's get a little bit of an introduction first. So why don't you gentlemen first say what it is that you teach and how long have you been teaching?
Okay, I teach at Mount Carmel. I've been teaching for the past 4 years. My original degree is I had a bachelor's degree in biology. So I teach biology at high school. And I just recently completed my diploma in education. That means that I just recently got promoted to the pay scale 16.
Mm-hmm. And for you, Kelvin?
Yes, hello, good morning once again. As my name says, I'm Kelvin Requena. I'm also a teacher at Mount Carmel High School. I'm currently I think I'm going into my four and a half years of teaching. I have an associate's degree in biology and chemistry, and I'm currently pursuing my bachelor's degree in chemistry. And I mean, this is a very interesting topic that Miguel and I have discussed over several days and weeks, I would say. So that's why we came up with this wonderful idea, I would say.
Yeah, and I wanted to say that. So it seems that you two gentlemen had your own viral video going around this weekend. And that's because you took the time to be able to break down what the ramifications of a possible increment freeze would mean on an individual basis for teachers. So Kelvin, you kind of alluded to it. This was a conversation that was ongoing. What prompted you to go to the next step to do the explainer?
I would say, Miguel, you can go ahead.
Sorry about that. I think that the information has been out there for a while. It's not new information, and I saw the information from the Public Service Union website, and I thought that, hey, why are we foregoing the increment? Why are we? Because it was all about the salary. We said, oh, the increment is so little, and we didn't get the whole picture. And I came that morning to Kelvin and I said, Kelvin, what do you think? We have a need for this, and he agreed, and we discussed in ways in which we can present it effectively, and we came up with that. And since I am a little bit more vocal, he said, well, you go on and you speak.
and he volunteered his information.
Yes.
That is a sample information.
No, but let's bring it back to the core issue. So you felt that the conversation was strictly talking about the percentage of salary cut, and not so much looking at what the impact of the increment freeze would be.
I think it's a little bit reversed, because I think everyone was talking about the salary cut, and we were so befuddled with all this storm on the salary cut, and the increment freeze was left to the side, and that is where the hidden danger is. And if there are teachers listening to me, that is where the hidden dangers is. So I need to stress that.
All right. So we do have the video, and we're going to ask you to do a kind of a live explanation, so our viewers can also get a better understanding as well. But Kelvin, from your point of view, why was this such a critical point for you? Especially since you are both young teachers who have, a few decades to go in your career.
Well, as you said, Marlene, we do have a few decades to go in our career. And I think that was the turning point that we felt that we actually wanted to make the young people joining the teaching profession in terms of their what's going on, to explain to them, because sometimes Miguel and I have discussed that sometimes the information is there, but we don't actually take the time to read it, to go over the information, and in doing so, we felt that we were actually catering for them, telling them, hey, this is information, this is how it is being presented to you, or this is how it will affect you. And again, we must consider that we are young, and maybe oftentimes we don't have our goals properly set. And in doing so, Miguel and I have sort of like exposed them and telling them, this is how you're being affected, but just think of it. I think that was the main message that Miguel and I had, like, hey, this is information, this is how it's affecting you, think of it. Think of how you would modify it, how you would make amends to maybe not get this huge cut, I would say.
All right, so we're going to pull up that video, and you guys can talk us through it. But as you were doing the breakdown with the sample salaries that you used, were you surprised by seeing the amount of money that would be lost with that 4-year freeze?
Yeah, certainly it was a big surprise when we discovered it. Well, not discovered it, but when we actually understood the deep implications that it has. And so, yeah, I was surprised, and I think Kelvin was equally surprised. Yeah. So, yeah. You said that you you
Well,
put
if
up
you
the
have
video.
it, you can pull it up there because it may be easier.
Right,
There we
right.
go.
So one of the things, with the numbers that I input in the video might have been the numbers that I had at hand, and then Mr. Leva from Baptist High School, he made the correction. So I have new numbers if I can share my screen, and they're a little bit worse than I had originally projected. So if I can share my screen, then
Yeah, we're going to get that sorted for you right now. So this is, and that's where, I mean, what was the response when you put this video out and everyone was able to see on a chart just what you're talking about when you say an increment freeze? What were some of the responses that you got?
Well, the responses were mixed, and that is something that I would really like to address. I got messages on my Facebook attacking me, and I got some messages thanking me. Now, I didn't make it with the purpose of creating conflict for people who don't agree, but I was objectively, as science teachers, we have to retain an objective mind of this is the implication. We will lose out. This is not an opinion. This is a fact. We will lose out a lot of money if we go with the increment freeze for 4 years. And I think that the public also needs to know that we're not fighting with them. It's not a fight with them, and we're not even fighting with the government. We're not even fighting with the government. We're just trying to bring awareness that this will have a very bad taste at the end of our lives upon retirement. So I think I have my presentation up.
Yeah, let's see it now.
Okay, so I used the pay scale 69, and that was one of the high end. So on a normal year, when I started teaching, I earned $30,171, and every year that passed, and if you notice, on a normal year, this would have been the case. So it would have increased 1,300.
1 second, we're still trying to get the video up, so we don't have that there right now. Yeah, but go ahead and keep on explaining. Yeah. So
every year that I teach, I would be assessed because we have assessment twice a year, evaluations twice a year based on performance, and then they would decide whether I am deserving of a salary increment. And make no mistake, the evaluations tend to be very stringent. So it's not like we're getting it automatically. We need to teach, and we need to be observed, clinically observed, and objectively assessed. And then we get an increase. It's not like we're just gonna get an increase because we're moving up in years. We get an increment based on merit. And every year, the salary for a pay scale 16 would have an increase of $1,010. So that would be our increment, yearly increment. As we move on, so every year on a normal year, it would grow like that for 20 years because the pay scale is based on a 20-point line. And if you notice here, okay, I see that my chart is there. So if you're able to see in a normal year, it would increase by the same amount. So this is the amount, and cumulatively, by the end of my lifetime, I would have made earnings of $1,237,747.
So let me just interject there for a second, because this is part of what people, we're looking at the screen, and for people who don't know numbers, this is already confusing, right? Right. So when you're looking at the first, it has 4 years of an increment freeze, that right side of the screen. Now, we know that the proposal is only for 3, but you are already completing the first year of an increment freeze, right?
Yes, that is correct. Okay. We are completing 1 year, and it is being proposed for 3 more years, and that makes it 4. Now, if you're like me and you got frozen on your first year, well, that means that tough luck for you. That's 5 years for you.
Okay. And so what you're seeing is that basically what you would have earned over those years, you don't see it, well, you do see the difference as you move forward in your years of service. That's what's happening as we scroll down. But the biggest difference is looking at what happens in your final total, right?
That is correct. Cumulative loss over a lifetime, a lifetime of service. And originally in the video, I projected that it was about 76,000, when in actuality, it's nearly 100 grand. It's 99,000 and a fraction. So I'm not sure if my graph is showing, if my table is showing.
The table is showing, yes. Go ahead.
Okay, so here, this one gives you a better visual representation of what I intended to do. So if you're able to see, so are you able to see my screen?
No, we're still seeing the table. But just go ahead. Just go ahead and explain to us, since we can't get it sorted.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is, sorry. So just let me share it.
So Kelvin, tell us while Miguel is working on that. Kelvin, tell us a bit about the feedback that you received as well.
Well, if we start at the smaller scale, which would be the school at which we work in, I would say we received the same as Miguel said, a little bit of mixed feelings, and because the video was not hosted directly by me, it was hosted by Miguel. I think I actually went ahead and started reading like the comments. I didn't actually receive any messages directly to me, but I read the comments that Miguel was receiving, and as well from what I spoke to him yesterday and over the weekend was actually, the mixed feelings could be felt there. Some people were supportive, some people were like not that supportive, but overall that was not what we were trying to do. We were just trying to show people how it is that we teachers and maybe other people who are in similar fields would be affected. And also, as Miguel said, like we teachers, we do tend to work a little bit for those little increments that we get on a yearly basis. And as Miguel also stated, it's not automatic. We actually have to show that we deserve that increment. And that's something that we actually wanted to get across. Like oftentimes we might hear, oh, teachers getting this increment, but they don't hear the full story that we need to be assessed, clinically assessed, as Miguel said, that before we get that increment. If we don't pass that clinical assessment, then maybe we will not get that increment.
And the mixed reactions that you've got, were those from teachers as well?
I would say it's just general. I couldn't really say it was just teachers. I couldn't just say it was just a regular or people who work in the private sector.
Yeah, because I mean, it would be interesting to me to find out why, if there were some teachers who had negative reactions to it, what reasons that they gave.
That would be a very good thing to figure out, but we haven't quite seen or say, well, we can't usually just go into Facebook and say like browse for everyone, because then we would be like little stalkers, and we don't want to be stalkers.
I'm sure you teach your students not to be. Okay, Miguel, we have the chart up, so you can go ahead and walk us through that.
Okay, so on this chart, well, it shows you, what it's trying to show you is that, so this is how our increments look like. When you increase, it is one increment goes on top of each other. So for those people who don't understand numbers, this this gives you a better visual of what I'm trying to portray. So practically, the first 4 years, I mean, we will not be getting any increments. So I think that the host has option of moving the table.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you can go to the
There you go.
Right there, right there, yeah. So if you notice, this would be on year 1 to 4. This is how normally it would look like. The green shows how our increments would look like on a normal year. So the green colored part is how it would look. But now if we set back our increments by 4 years, this is how it would look like. So it's like we didn't work this first 4 years, and we start at 0 with our increments from the 5th year up. And if you notice, it's the same type of escalation, or the same stairway. It just happened that 4 years entirely. So all the little portion that you see here in green, there, that would be things that we would not get if we go with an increment freeze. Those would be things that would be lost forever. And if you add it up, inside of each box, there's $1,310. If you add all those little green boxes up, it would total about $99,000. So that is more or less the gist of the increment freeze. The effects and long-term implications, economic implications.
What you've been able to do, and it's part of the reason why we wanted to have you all here, is be able to give some clarity as to what is being proposed. You very clearly said that you've gotten positive reactions as well as some negative reactions. And I suppose that some people may feel that putting together this video and allowing for a visualization of what type of sacrifice is being asked is almost trying to steer the direction of the decision making that teachers had to make during this time. Do you feel that that's part of what's behind the negative reactions you get?
Well, everyone is suffering because of the pandemic, and we have to acknowledge that. So something that has not, well, it's not being said clearly. We are all suffering. And yes, this is a sacrifice of the teachers, and I wouldn't dare say like this would be my final sacrifice. And I think that part of the, I would use the word hate for a lack of a better word. The hate that is being fomented is that people are thinking, oh, they're getting their salaries, meanwhile we don't have anything, and they're complaining. And I think that is what is causing the negative reaction. But we are all suffering. And why are we all suffering? I have family members. My dad is a taxi driver. He was unemployed for a year. So it's not like we live in isolation. Teachers are just getting it easy or getting away with it easy, or public servants are getting it easy. We all have to make a sacrifice. And I think that people are not, because they're not seeing the sacrifice that probably teachers make, which is most of the reason behind some of the hate words that are said in social media. Certainly.
And when you look at the conversation around increments, people who don't work in government service especially, it very often is misconstrued as you getting a yearly raise. And the performance appraisal is also really key. Do you want to talk us through that so we can understand? And what's it like for you as teachers? Kelvin, you can take that one.
Well, to start with, it does take a little bit of preparation. It's just that, like, usually we might think, oh, teachers, they just write a lesson and they deliver it. But over the course of a week or the semester or even the school year, we actually have to go back and reevaluate our lessons. And in doing so, we tend to cater for students who are moving farther ahead than the rest, those students who are in between, and those students who tend to be a little bit slower. So we have to cater for all of them at the same time. So in preparing, so when we start, let's say, so for high schools, usually the beginning of the school year is August. When we start August, we usually get a new class. If it's a third or a fourth former, we just continue that class. So we already know how they work. But for, let's say, a first form, a second form, or a new third form, we as science teachers, especially because we do teach chemistry and biology, we tend to first get them. We need to assess them and evaluate them, telling them, okay, so this group is doing so, this group is doing a little bit at the medium range, and then we have the lower one. So we assess them, we take them, and over time, when the evaluation comes, we know that we will do our best. It's not like, oh, we will just walk in there and do a lesson. No, we prepare a lot. It begins at the very beginning of the year, our first assessment. We do have sometimes issues do arise. Maybe our lesson deviates slightly, but we need to accommodate over that. And there are little things that the student collaboration, the behavior of the teacher in class, and the overall feel of the lesson needs to be evaluated in that criteria, which allows us to be able to get that increment at the very end of the year.
Yeah. Now, as young teachers, as you were asked to weigh in on the proposals being made, what are some of the things that you use as guidance for your decision-making process?
Okay, since we are science teachers, we tend to rely a lot on the facts. So let's look at the economics of it. So the economics has to do a lot of it. We also have to look at the moral, because teachers, we are held to a higher moral standard than other employees. So we have to look at the moral, what is our duty, and so we do have multiple things that we need to factor in when making a decision. So we can't just selfishly say our decision will be based on this. No, we need to take a holistic approach and decide exactly what is the best course of action.
Yeah. And I think what you said is such a key point. One of the foundation of science is really looking at facts and using that. And the facts of where we are economically as a country is one that, of course, in the proposal that's being put forward is the basis for why government feels this is a necessary step to take. So while you do the breakdown in looking at the impact on teachers, how do you also factor in the economics of the situation?
Okay, so I'll answer that. I'd also like to prepare to share my screen once more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that is being put out there is this. I mean, from the image there, we are at an impasse, because I think that we're heading in that direction, right?
Yeah.
From the government's perspective, this is what we understood. This is like in a nutshell what we understood. I want 3 years of your salary and increments. That is like the gist of what we are getting. And we need it because of this, and that. Fine, that's true. But ironically, they want something of us. And what are they putting on the table? So what exactly are they putting on the table that will complement this sacrifice? Because I don't want you to take it the wrong way. Teachers are not selfish in nature. I mean, we are one of the most giving people that can exist out there. And I think, and this is like the crux of the matter, there has been a huge miscommunication between where we stand. Because we are not saying completely, well, we are. So this is the message we're getting, essentially. We need 3 years of your salary and your increments. And we say no. And it's fair. It's fair for us to say no. But deep within us, there are 3 main reasons why teachers are saying no. 3 main reasons. One, we are afraid of the financial instability. So even though we understand the economic situation of the country, we are afraid. And this is a self-preserving reason. Sounds selfish, right? But it's not only that.
But human. It's also human. I think any person who feels that particular threat, they get scared.
Yes, we are scared. We are genuinely scared. And I tell you as a teacher, I think there is a lack of trust in government. And this is more or less our revolutionary reason. So we are not willing to give up 3 years and 3 years of salary and increments.
Because of a lack of trust.
Because there is a lack of trust. And it's the same reason why we don't invest in people we know that will lead us astray. I'm not saying that the government will lead us astray. It's just that there is a quote by Confucius which would illustrate this. There are 3 ways in which let me just read it here. There are 3 ways by which we learn wisdom. First, by reflection, which is the noblest. Second, by imitation, which is the easiest. And third, by experience, which is the bitterest. And in the past history of our country, it's a very young history, we have had the government making decisions that have not been sound. I think this government needs a chance to make things better. But if there is no trust, the first step in this negotiation is to establish the trust. Because we don't trust government, and you can ask anyone out there their opinion, and they might say, yeah, maybe we trust them a little bit, but the general consensus is that there is a lack of trust. And I think they need to table something, put something forward, and that is why I put this previous image. We are at an impasse, and this is the reason, this is the real reason, for 3 reasons. We are afraid, we lack the trust, and we are fighting for our next generation. If you notice from my image there on the 3rd picture, I have the image of a man beating a woman, and the woman is defending herself. I know it's a little bit of a stereotype because it can be the other way around, but what I'm trying to say is if we don't defend our rights, then we are condoning a future generation of teachers and public officers to be trampled upon anytime that the situation gets bad. That will be the course of action, because there is precedent, there is history that, okay, anytime it goes. So no, we are not saying we won't contribute. We're not saying that. That is not the sentiment that teachers have. The general sentiment is that we are afraid, and the government needs to acknowledge that we are afraid, because if we chose a job like this and worked our life off to study, it's because we sought financial stability, and that is what the job brought with us. And we don't really know what to do now that we're going to lose, or we stand to lose. We lack trust, and I think that this is one of the noblest fights for when we take it as a collective, as teachers and public officers. We want to restore that trust, that confidence, and for us to invest and for us to sacrifice, there needs to be something in return. In this case here, both are unwilling to put something forward. So it's the final stone that will bridge the gap. So we will contribute, but we need things in place. We really need things in place for us to be willing to take that step. Not just we want your 3 years salary and increments. So that's the general sentiment.
What do you think are some of the things that could help that could help build confidence? Well, one on the teacher's part, but yeah. Well, let's just start with that. What's something that can be done so at least perhaps even if we don't get to the resolution immediately, how do we get closer to finding that building that bridge, to use your analogy?
Yes. So in building the bridge, I'm very glad that you asked that question. I'm extremely happy you asked that question because there are things that we demand, and I will just name a few. I think that the other days I saw Mr. Julius Espat. He was misrepresented in a video that was promulgated in social media in an interview. And he spoke a little bit about transparency. Transparency is asking for the documentation and we providing, but we don't want that and we don't deserve that. What we deserve is proactive transparency. That's the first step in establishing trust. So proactive transparency would be like the first step. What does that mean? You stop using limited tender, try to because we had to look at this in a holistic view. So you also need to be forthright with your campaign financing. You need to hold the people given contracts accountable for the work that they do. So you need to have legislation, because if we elected a new government, and by I say the Belizean people, it's because we want a change. That is what we were seeking. And from the get-go, we saw controversy with hirings, and that we want legislation. That's part of their job. We want legislation in place that will protect not only teachers and public officers, but Belizeans in general, the people from getting stepped on. Maybe today is, and then we also want excessive spending on allowances to be reduced, because look, they said 10% that they are removing or they're sacrificing from their salary. That is not equitable. That is not equitable. If a person who earns $16,000, let's say we have a public servant earning $16,000 and they already feel strained, they have a family of 5, they have to take the bus every morning, they have to pack their lunch to go to work at Belmopan, from Cayo to Belmopan, and they're giving $1,600 when our representatives they're giving out or getting reduced 10%, which would be like sometimes like $8,000, but they still have other amenities that they can fall back on. Yeah, maybe I'm losing that, but then I have other things where I can rely. So for them to truly understand, we also want reduced spending and allowances. We need to abandon projects that are a non-priority for our country. Like just for the campaign season, we saw a lot of work being done. The people deserve the work being done, but is it a priority? I saw Mr. Julius said it is on majority on agro-productive sector, and I was very happy to hear that. But then when you walk around town and you see that maybe it is that is what some people are selling him that, but that's not what is really happening at times. And I really want to take a leap of faith and believe in that this government will be different, but I also want to see things in place that will protect.
Yeah.
Yes. So
let me ask one more question, because I think that it's also, while you've taken the time to put together visualizations of what the current proposal is. You said that you clearly understand the economic situation. Have you, what kind of alternatives, in addition to having actions taken to build the trust, which you say is lacking, but what about other alternatives as to what you feel as a young teacher, and this is on a personal basis, I want to be clear, this isn't a union position, that you think you would feel comfortable doing?
Okay, so that is an excellent question, and here is where I might cause a little bit of controversy. Because once things are in place, and I feel that, yes, I can deposit my trust in the government, what am I willing to do as a, certainly not 3 years, 3 years is way too much. We need to find compromise. We need to find middle ground. On a personal basis, I would be willing to let go of the increment with one condition: make provisions that will make our increments be nominal. That means that they will increase in name. That way it doesn't become stagnant. So we won't receive the monetary increments, but we will receive the increments in name. And I would feel much more at ease for 1 year. On the salary, 10%, I would agree to bail the government this once for 1 year, because this is a government who campaign on we plan Belize, and I want to hold them accountable that they are planning Belize, and I want to deposit and take the leap of faith and say, yes, I am willing on a personal basis to give up 10% this year and that salary increment, provided that we get nominal increments. So that on a personal basis, that is what. I cannot speak for the rest, because I know that everyone has a different financial reality and different type of commitments. So as a young teacher, that is my grain of sand towards building this bridge.
And have you heard? Well, I mean, we started out this conversation by saying that you and Kelvin have been, of course, speaking about this for the past few weeks, obviously, because you'll feel the direct impacts of it. But suggestions like those that you made just now, are those the type of conversations that you all are having? And is there also scope for getting those concerns or those suggestions or things like that you've been able to highlight just now? Are your voices being heard? Because we're hearing about this in terms of the news, and it's sort of a big national conversation. But among your individual teachers, what's the general feeling like?
Okay, I think that at the start, it was like this: no, 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 and the sentiment has been, we oppose it vehemently. That's it, because this is what we are getting. This is the fee that we're getting. This is the banner which the government is operating on. 3 years salary cut, 3 years increment. But as we speak, and I think that you will find that teachers are very reasonable individuals. They're extremely reasonable individuals. And we are willing to sacrifice. We are, but not blindly. We're not sheep. We need hand in hand. And I think that it is becoming the general sentiment in our school. Yes, we are a little bit disgruntled by it. We won't be happy giving it up, but we will be a little bit more willing. It is much more palatable for 1 year to be given out.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is and Kelvin, do you want to share your perspective as we start to sign off?
I share the same sentiment as Miguel. Yeah. I would give part of it, but at the same time, we need to have certain measures set in place, like certain legislation, as Miguel also said, that will not benefit us immediately, but in the long run. And also, a key point that Miguel stated is that usually when we approach someone and we just tell them, okay, I'm going to remove this from you. And we can see them with children. Like, children nowadays are so attached to their mobile devices, like tablets or phones. And you tell them, okay, give me your phone, give me your tablet. Their reaction would be, no, I won't give it. Like, that's the same thing with teachers. Yeah. Like, they told them, okay, we're taking 10% of your salary, and we're taking an increment as well. And we're like, okay, so why? We need something. We need to be expressed, like told, okay, we will be taking this, but we will be making this following amends that will help you in the long run. And I think that's what everybody wants to hear. Now, and yes, we might not like it, but we know that in the long run, it will be beneficial to both the country and ourselves as teachers and as citizens of this country.
So I'm sure you both know that this is a very divisive issue, and there are people who stand up and say they're in support with the BNTU and the unions on their stance, and there are many who say, nope, I have taken a salary cut, I have lost my job, I am struggling, you guys need to put in your pound of flesh as well. How do you respond when you hear that?
Okay, so in regards to that, I'm very happy that you have that slide up. So I think that you can put it up.
Yeah.
How do we give our pound of flesh? We have been giving our pound of flesh. When the last April, when the government was scrambling for funds and they were looking, where will the money come? Who will get the money? How will we get the money to the people? Teachers were already on the move. Our school, we had fundraised to go on a trip somewhere. I don't remember where. It feels like it was a decade ago. We used that money. We fundraised for a year to go on a trip. But guess what? Everyone unanimously said, no, we use that money for grocery bags for the students who need it. Yes, maybe it's not on social media. Maybe it's not viral. Maybe we didn't put it up because there was no string attached to these grocery bags. And we have been giving up, and we have been going out there and giving, maybe not every single month, but we have, and this is something that the people need to understand. We are giving that, maybe not a pound of flesh, that sounds a little bit grim, but but we have been giving to our community, and we continue to give to our community. Just recently, before the tablets were issued out, some students had no access to anything. Some students, and the school just happened to have surplus of tablets from a project that was implemented some years ago. Guess what the principal did? The principal personally called those students, gave them a tablet. I mean, we are givers. We are willing to give, but we also need some assurances and some measures, like Mr. Kelvin said, in place. So we have been giving. That's my central message.
All right. Well, can I just say, Miguel and Kelvin, it is refreshing to hear new perspectives in this conversation. And as we clearly stated in the beginning, this is not a union perspective. These are two teachers in Benqueville who took the initiative to try to explain to the broader public what the impact of the increment would be. And, you know, as young teachers, I think it is even more important that we see what type of communication and education is taking place in the classrooms. And it's encouraging. So thank you for taking the initiative, and thank you for coming on live television to share your point of view.
Thank you for having us. We are very grateful that you gave us this platform to expand on this issue. And I think my parting message is, don't be so willing to give up the increment. That isn't my parting sentiment.
All right.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that. Yeah. And with that, of course, we are going to be taking our break, and we're going to come back and have our second conversation with representatives from the Ministry of Human Development, and we're going to be talking all about Social Workers Day 2021. So please stay tuned.
This COVID update was brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service. Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that by simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop, it increases your productivity by 26%. And adding a monitor takes it up by 35%. At Fulltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience with devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands that you can rely on. With collaboration tools such as Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky, your team can stay connected and perform efficiently no matter where they are. Fulltech Systems, your trusted technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
As one of the largest cable and internet providers in Belize, CBC strives to provide our customers with the highest standards of quality, value, and service in all aspects of cable TV and internet. Monitoring our systems closely, our technicians combine creative planning and state-of-the-art technology with years of experience and training to develop and provide the most reliable and advanced cable and internet service to exceed your expectations. For CBC and our team of talented engineers, technicians, and customer service representatives, delivering less than the very best is never an option.
Currently, we're using Smart Elite VoIP calling plan. We use it interbranch, we use it to call outside, and we also use it to call international. It's far cheaper than what we used to have before. Our equipment are new, PBX box is new. So the PBX is very good because I can call to my Sartaneja branch, I can call to my Kikaka branch, I can call to San Pedro branch, and there's no cost using the PBS. Actually right now, since we're in different locations, I can call main office from where I am at a no cost using the PBX system. I would recommend it, sure I would, especially the big enterprises who has a lot of employees. There's a lot of reduction in costs, 50% of saving. But that on a year, it's a lot of money that we're saving. Money that we could return to our members, since we give back dividend to our members.
Visit our showroom or call 670-6710 to find out how Smart's corporate plan and PBX systems can benefit your business. Consultation is free.
And we'll be back in a few, so stay tuned. Thanks, Jen. Hey there, we know you have to head out to work shortly, but don't forget that you can stay tuned by watching us on our Facebook live stream. Find us at Open Your Eyes BC, and you can continue watching there. You can also download Facebook Watch on your streaming device, and you can watch at your own convenience.
And for all the behind-the-scenes fun, follow us on Instagram at OYE Belize. So,
find us
and follow us
today.
When someone you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. Channel 5 introduces the Daily Obituaries. The Daily Obituaries will broadcast all death and funeral announcements and memorials to honor your loved one's life and memories. The Daily Obituaries airs on Channel 5 prior to the evening newscast, with subsequent repeats at 10 p.m. and 12 noon the following day. It will also be placed online on our social media platforms, all for a standard package fee. Celebrate their lives and memories with Channel 5's Daily Obituaries. Honor in life and reverence in death.
And we're back, and we are just getting our second conversation for this morning started. Today is International Social Workers Day 2021, and we have with us two social workers from the Ministry of Human Development, and we're going to be getting their perspective and also celebrating a little bit of today. So we have joining us this morning Ganesha, who is a social worker, as well as Carmelita Cahun. Good morning, ladies.
Hi, good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Why don't we start off with a bit of introductions, and you can tell us a little bit about who you are and how long you have been social workers. Why don't we start with Ganesha?
Hi, good morning again. Ganesha Smith here from the Department of Human Services. I have been working in the capacity as a social worker for the past 14 years. I am currently the Human Development Coordinator for Child Protection Services within Belize City.
Right. And Carmelita?
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Marlene and Gavin. I am Kami Kahun. I work at the Ministry of Human Development in Orange Walk, and I have been in the ministry for the past 18 years. And right now I'm working on the capacity of family support services.
All right. So let's start off with the main question for me, which is what prompted you to get involved, to follow a career as a social worker?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Let me start.
Yeah.
Okay. When I think about why I'm here, I think it goes back to who I am. I believe that I was born to be a social worker. I love what I do. I think the part where we do, helping, guiding clients, working with them and things like that, that is what makes me feel good, makes me feel that I have a purpose. And that's the reason I think God put me right here where I am right now, because He wants me to be here. He wants me to be, some sort of a guidance to our clients, be there to advocate for them. And, it's something that makes you feel good.
Yeah. You said, Ganesha, how about you?
I think for me, I have always been one who loved interacting with people, meeting people, helping people. It's a drive for me, and my motto for 2020 and 2021 has been to put a smile on everyone's face. You don't know how persons are feeling inside, but just to have them smile for one time could change their day, could change even their life. And I think I've been someone like that from I was very young, trying to just make everybody feel happy, everybody feel good, and just allowing or helping people to reach their goal. So that's just me, and that has been from, like I said, from high school. I have been this person.
So why don't we talk a little bit more about what it is that both of you do every day. So Ganesha, why don't you describe, let's say, a typical day or a typical week in your life as a social worker?
Okay, so like I said earlier, for me, I work within the child protection system, and that entails looking at various numbers of report that comes in for child abuse. So a typical day is coordinating staff, ensuring that they're ready to go out doing their investigations, doing administrative work, being so much as a support for them, a coach for them while they go out and investigate these child protection reports that are coming in, and then help them to develop care plan that best suits the children we come in contact with, the family we come in contact with. So it's a very compact day. It is a day that is not dull. It is a day that is not monotonous, but one that is filled with a lot of activities, a lot of movement, and a lot of fast thinking.
Yeah. It's really interesting. You know, when you said that you want to put a smile on people's face, and that's kind of like your drive or passion behind what you do, I think the main knowledge that we tend to have of social workers are those who provide interventions to families when things are going wrong. And as you'd imagine, that doesn't bring a smile to many family members' face if they think of children who may potentially need to be removed, or having an outsider provide input to how they're providing care. How do you balance these two things, your main driver and the actual practical work that you may have to do?
It's to bring people to see a bigger picture, Marlene. Oftentimes people look at what is exactly in front of their face, and they're not seeing any outlets, they're not seeing anything that can work for them at this point. But it will allow them to see that as a child protection officer, it is not just looking at removing a child in the event we have to, but what can we do to sustain this family, to stabilize this family. So it is looking at employment, it is looking at building empowerment, it is looking at building self-esteem, so that people know that they don't have to be where they are. They might not get that smile today, oftentimes as we see, but the end result is definitely to be self-sustainable, to maintain your family. For children, it is for them to be happy, to know that they're in a safe place where they can express themselves, where they can just be a child.
Yeah. And for you, Carmelita, this is the ultimate helping profession. What are some of the rewards that you've gained from this work over the years?
Well, Marlene, I would say that I think the biggest one is, as what Ms. Smith had mentioned, seeing the family achieving what they want or what they need. I've been working with families for 18 years, and one of the things that I notice is that a lot of the times, you know, these families have vulnerability, they have different needs and things like that. And when they come and ask for the services, I am there to provide that linkage with the different agencies or the different type of needs that they have. And when they come back and they say, thank you for giving me that support, thank you for the help that you give me, you know, that's really gratifying. That's makes me, you know, at the end of the day, as Ganesha had mentioned, you know, giving that smile, it won't be immediate, but at the end of the day, they come back and they say, thank you.
And is, over the years, has the profession been growing? Are there more people involved in or wanting to get involved in this type of work?
Actually, I think so. I have done several presentations at UB, and I've seen where a lot of young people are becoming interested in this profession. So I do think it's growing.
Yeah. And in those presentations, how do you ground them to the realities of the job? Because it's not easy work. I'd hate for us to not get that point across.
It is. I think it's for them to create the balance between having the theory being taught to them and relating it to the real world, practical. And so it's just to merge that for them. It's not difficult, but it is challenging, and it will challenge you to work to the best. As social workers, I have a colleague who used to say, we are not accountants. While accountants can erase an error, if they would say 1 + 1 is 3, they can erase the 3 and put 2. As social workers, we are working with vulnerable populations. We are working with people who are hurt. We are working with persons who are traumatized. And it is to bring that reality to new intakes, new persons wanting to join this profession, to know that it comes from the heart. And it is not something that you just do for a salary. It has to be coming from your heart, and the willingness and commitment has to be there.
And the scope of work, as you clear, you're in child protection services, so you're responding to things like abuse or neglect. What's the situation in Belize? Where are you seeing the main challenges within families?
I think with COVID and everything, it has become increasingly challenging. A lot of children are at home. Persons are struggling, trying to assist them in terms of getting schoolworks completed. Parents or household providers are losing their jobs, and that has become increasingly challenging. What we have been seeing is a rise in physical abuse, and I think that leads to, again, frustration from parents. And so in situations like these, we use it as a learning tool or a learning moment to educate parents on how best to be use positive discipline, how best to coach them in terms of parenting, and just being able to relax and take each situation one at a time. So what we're seeing is a lot of is more physical abuse, and that is then followed by neglect and sexual abuse. To be exact, our data shows, Marlene, that within the year 2019 and 2020, physical abuse has gone up 51%. And so it is an area that needs a lot of work. But with COVID, it has restricted us or limited us in terms of the level and the amount of services we can provide physically to our clients.
All right, so let's back up into that statistic for a bit, because that's very concerning. 51% increase in reports of physical abuse.
Yes, and this is throughout the country.
Because we know that there's quite a bit that goes unreported as well.
Exactly.
And where are these reports coming from? Are they coming from the point of administration of care, like when a child is taken to a clinic or a hospital? Or is it coming from neighbors or family members? What do you see?
It's a combination of both. I think our highest point is coming from neighbors, and then followed by the healthcare facilities. We would get reports coming from the police as well, but most of it is coming from concerned neighbors and through the healthcare facility if a child needs urgent medical attention.
Like they show up hurt or with something broken or bruised, then...
Exactly, and it doesn't, and their explanation is not satisfactory to the medical practitioner, then they will definitely make a report to either the Department of Human Services or the police department.
And Carmelita, what has your experience been like working through the pandemic?
Okay, Gavin, it has been really challenging. As Ms. Smith had mentioned, it was already challenging before the pandemic, and during the pandemic, well, it became even more increasingly challenging. We have seen a lot of, I work with the family support services. So we provide services to clients and families in general. So we work with the entire family. And we have had a lot of issues in terms of not being able to go there due to the pandemic, or not being able to interact with our clients the way we normally would do. So the pandemic had created or had made us move from one area of how we used to work and quickly change to another way of working with our clients, which is relying on our mobile phones and contacting them and things like that. So, and the thing is that at the end of the day, when we working with clients, the challenges are a lot. And we try to make as much as we can, or try to help as much as we can to get them to at least enhance some sort of functional, being able to be functional in their families. And we try to provide as much support as we can. But as I mentioned, last year it was very challenging. However, we kept on going, and up to now we're still here working with families and things like that.
If I could add to that,
Go ahead. Yeah.
I just see social workers, and I just saw this on a comment this morning, as superheroes. I think we are not recognized as much as we should be. Through this whole COVID-19, social workers across country within our ministry has been working tirelessly. I mean, we have been involved from one thing to the next. So COVID started, we started responding to emergent needs of clients needing food. We responded to the threat of 2 hurricanes, and so officers had to be out there doing assessments. We responded to election. We responded to various things, and we never stopped. We still haven't stopped. We're still going. So we do consider ourselves like healthcare workers, like police officers, as frontline workers, because we are the glue that has been keeping our country going throughout COVID, despite not seeing us at the forefront, but we are there because we're working behind the scenes, trying to keep families together, trying to meet their needs so that they can provide for their families.
In this concept, this work that you do, and I think that that's something that we can benefit from having this type of conversation. When people understand what social workers do and the ultimate goal of family preservation, they can understand how you are helping to build and maintain the foundation of our society. But it's very much thankless work. I think the last time, Ganesha, we maybe had you talking about social work, you were talking about caseloads for social workers, where on average a social worker should have 20 families that they're working with, and in Belize they were somewhere around 50 or more.
Mm-hmm.
Is that still the case? Have we reduced that? Because it's a big difference between what should be done in 20 families and having to manage 50 families.
It is pretty much the same. For the mere fact that the number of reports have increased throughout this last year. And so it has been rising in terms of officers' caseload at this point.
And that comes with its own challenges, I'd imagine, because you can't invest the level of time one-on-one with families as you would want to or as you should.
I think for the most part, officers have been doing their utmost best in trying to meet the needs of their client. Like mentioned earlier, the biggest barrier is not being able to interact with them physically. Because it's hard to have a heart-to-heart conversation via telephone, especially if it is someone that is not familiar with you. They would want to see you, and vice versa for us. We would want to see what is not being said, all the nonverbals, all their expressions, all their emotions, in order for us to build a solid or robust plan to work with them. So that is definitely a challenge for us in terms of meeting their needs 100%.
That's so true. And, you know, I guess while we talk of how the external challenges are adding an extra burden in the households, and you have the 51% increase in reports for physical abuse of children. I mean, that's something I think that people will have a hard time settling. Is the positive spin, if there's ever, or a silver lining, silver thread to this, that you have more communities getting involved to make those reports?
Yes, that is definitely a silver lining. We have been seeing a lot more participation from communities making reports, because oftentimes a lot of these reports, like you said, are unreported. Children are being reared in unhealthy, unsafe environments. So we do have the support of the community. What we definitely need, and if I can just punch this right in here, is a lot more support of persons or families wanting to foster. Again, for us, children belongs with family. And for us, it is important that we identify families that are open, that are willing to work with children who are victims of abuse.
Yeah, and how does that work? How do you, I mean, Belize are we getting more families signing up to be foster families? What type of gap are we talking about?
It's slow but steady. Mm-hmm. We would definitely want to see a rise in that. And I think what we have recognized is that with COVID, and oftentimes we blame COVID at this point, but COVID has made persons step back because they don't want to expose their family to any sort of danger. They have been resistant in making applications or even expressing interest in fostering. So there is a gap there definitely that we would want to close now. So first, people out there, if you are interested, please contact. We have offices throughout our country that officers will be there to answer your questions if you should have any, if as it relates to fostering a child.
And keeping in theme with Social Work Day, how do you guys commemorate the work that you, celebrate, I should say, the work that you do?
Well, most definitely, we celebrate Social Work Month from the beginning to the end. But this particular day, we recognize staff for the work that they have been continuously doing. Despite resources, whatever it is, they have been on a constant go and a constant high. And as our theme for this year says, Ubuntu, I am because we are, and we are because of the work that we do. We have a wellness committee within our ministry that takes care of social workers. This ministry does a lot of check-ins, provide services for our own in the event that they are stressed, they are burnt out, they're overwhelmed. We have counseling services, and to be, we are given a token just to show their appreciation of the work social workers do, and we celebrate this day just to the fullest. We have a lot of, while we work, and this is the unique thing about us, while we work, we try to make it fun, we try to make it engaging throughout this particular day, just to show again our appreciation for the work that staff has been doing.
Nice. All right. And for you, Carmelita, what would you say to people who are studying to be social workers, who are interested in being social workers, as to what they can expect, or why you would tell them that it's a great profession to join?
Well, the thing is that if you want to help, if you like helping, if you like interacting with people, if you like, looking at helping families and everybody, and with their needs and things like that, then I would encourage people that are studying. First of all, you have to be able to communicate, be able to understand people where they are. In working with them, it's not going to be easy, but it's at the end of the day, when you do something good for these families, it's something that you will enjoy at the end of the day. It's challenging, but if you have the heart to do it, you will definitely be able to get into social work and work with families the way we're supposed to. And the other thing is that I would encourage young people, to give it a try, because at the end of the day, you never know. You can fall in love with the job, and it's much more rewarding when you find out that at the end of the day you have laid that little grain of sand and make a difference in at least one person's life or one family life. Yeah. And you make it a difference. You try to create that difference in a person's life in whatever way you can.
Yeah. All right. And Ganesha, message to fellow social workers as we close.
I think for me, I would want to encourage, if you are aspiring to be a social worker, one of the biggest things you have to come with is commitment, is dedication. One of the skills, the core skill, is listening. Oftentimes we are a community that sometimes find it hard to express ourselves, to express our feelings, because we weren't taught to do so. We were taught to just deal with it and move on. And so it is important as a social worker that we listen. Sometimes that is all people want us to do, is to have that open ear for someone just to hear my cry, And in that same breath, I have sorted out my issue myself. So it's important to listen. I encourage them to come with a lot of energy, a lot of creative ideas, because we don't want it to be, it's not a profession that is clear cut, but it is one that is open for exploration. It is one that is open for creativity when working with families, because not one family, not one child, not one parent is the same. And so we need to be very, we need to think outside of the box in terms of how do we help them? How do we move them from point A to point Z or point M and have them move the other stretch of the way? So it's definitely to look at what are some of your core values, core social work ethics, as well as strong interpersonal skills.
All right. Well, we appreciate the work that the social workers do in this country, and we appreciate both of you for just shedding some light, at least on some of the work that you do. We know that social workers are involved in many more facets of the services provided in the country, but you've allowed us to understand just some parts of it, and we appreciate that. Happy Social Work Day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And end off just to saying to all my colleagues across the country of Belize, happy Social Work Day. Thank you, and we appreciate the work that you guys have been doing and continue to do. Have a fabulous day.
All right, and we appreciate you too. But with that, we are going to be taking another break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking all about forest management. So please stay tuned, and we'll be back after the break.
If we are only as strong as our families, businesses, institutions, and the communities that surround us, then by giving businesses the power to grow, entrepreneurs the ability to expand, and by giving our families the right to own something, the Belize Bank gives you the power to build a nation, our nation. We are stronger together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
The virus that causes COVID-19 may be spreading in our community. People might have the disease even if they have no symptoms at all, even when they look healthy. Because the virus needs us to spread from one person to another, we can stop it from infecting others if we practice physical distancing. That means stay at least 6 feet away from other persons. Don't shake hands or exchange hugs. Do not gather in groups. Stay home if government officials tell you to do so. Use social media or telephone to communicate. Avoid crowded and enclosed spaces. Work from home if you can. Stay home if you are sick, except to get medical care. Avoid close contact with sick people. Don't visit anyone who's sick in quarantine or in isolation. Give them a call instead. Help keep Belize safe.
Hello Belize. You may not be aware of the new travel requirements set in place by the Center of Disease Control and Prevention. Passengers traveling to the U.S. must present a negative COVID test or a documentation of having recovered from COVID-19 to travel to the U.S. In light of this, Maya, in partnership with Caring Hands Clinic, have established testing centers in all their municipal airports. Caring Hands Antigen Test Center is operational in San Pedro, Belize City, Dangriga, Placencia, and Hopkins. These testing facilities are staffed by licensed healthcare professionals, including doctors, registered nurses, and nurse practitioners. Testing is done using Abbott rapid test devices that are FDA approved and made in the USA. The service is safe, fast, affordable, and the close proximity of the centers makes them convenient. Walk-ins are welcomed, but appointments are encouraged. If you would like to make an appointment, please feel free to do so at book your appointment, get tested, and in 15 minutes, you can get back to your vacation.
And we'll be back in a few, so stay tuned. Thanks, Jen. Hey there, we know you have to head out to work shortly, but don't forget that you can stay tuned by watching us on our Facebook live stream. Find us at Open Your Eyes BC, and you can continue watching there. You can also download Facebook Watch on your streaming device, and you can watch at your own convenience.
And for all the behind-the-scenes fun, follow us on Instagram at OYE Belize. So,
find us
and follow us
today.
When someone you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. Channel 5 introduces the Daily Obituaries. The Daily Obituaries will broadcast all death and funeral announcements and memorials to honor your loved one's life and memories. The Daily Obituaries airs on Channel 5 prior to the evening newscast, with subsequent repeats at 10 p.m. and 12 noon the following day. It will also be placed online on our social media platforms, all for a standard package fee. Celebrate their lives and memories with Channel 5's Daily Obituaries. Honor in life and reverence in death.
Our final conversation for today, where we promised we'd continue to keep the focus on the forests of Belize. International Forest Day is coming up on March 22nd, and all this week we'll be focusing on different aspects of why the forest is important to us and some of the common threats that our forests in Belize face, as well as some of the ongoing projects that we have partners who work on to be able to reestablish and save them. Today, we're going to be talking about forest protection and forest management. And here to have this conversation with us, we have Raul Chun, who is a forest officer at the Forest Department, and Heron Moreno, who is the Executive Director of the Corozal Sustainable Future Initiative. Good morning.
Good morning.
So why don't we start off by talking a little bit about who you both are and the work that it is you do within the Forest Department. So why don't we start with Raul?
Good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to be on your show this morning. Like you said, my name is Raul Chun. I'm a forest officer with the Forest Department. Been working with the department for the past 27 years, basically different levels and with different responsibilities. And one of my responsibilities at the moment is really to serve as a coordinating a person or officer as it relates to fire management in Belize at the national level, the regional level, and the local level.
Okay. And for you, Heron, tell us a bit about the program in Corozal.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Always a pleasure to be with you. Well, we manage the northern section of the protected area systems of the country. And so one of the programs that we have within our protection program, it has to do with fire management. And I think last year we saw a very good example of why that was important, no? Yeah. So apart from doing all the protection work, the patrols and the surveillance work and research and monitoring, fire management is also a very critical part of the work we do. So my role in there is to oversee the organization, and we have a team of about 40 people. And yeah, within that 40 people, we have a little brigade of firefighters or rangers that are involved with fire management.
So we actually, I think it's interesting because we talk with the Met Service every day as we start the show to get an overview of the weather. And we know that around this time, they start offering what is called a fire forecast. Because this is the time of year where we see bushfires, as well as some of the fires that may have been unintentionally set, but from human error. Let's talk about some of the things that takes place that lead to the forest fires and the type of damage that it causes.
Okay, Marlene, on an annual basis, the fire season is actually observed from February 15th to June 15th, and really this is like the driest part of the year, and we've seen the accumulation of fires normally around these months. And really, fires are often started by people. Most fires in Belize are actually human-induced, either intentional or unintentional. But for the most part, I believe it's mostly intentional. It's really done by hunters, basically hunting for game species. Also done by farmers, basically preparing their land either for milpa or mechanized farming. People basically burning their yard trash. Land developers really who clear land and basically pile these organic debris and then light it up during the driest part of the year. Most of these fires, at least from what we can see, we observed last year, was that they were left unattended, unmanaged or uncontrolled, and basically that's what led to a high number of fires in a very short period of time. I recall, I think, just around the start of the lockdown in April, we had, a lot of fires ranging all the way up to like 143, 170 points that were registered on a daily basis for a very short period of time.
Raul, let me just get some clarity here, because you mentioned it earlier, and I know we've heard it in prior conversations. You say that the majority of fires are intentionally set. When we imagine forest fires, maybe it's relying on what we saw in cartoons or in movies. You think it's the sunlight causing it or the lightning causing it. But what's really behind these fires, and why do they get so out of control?
Well, like I said, people basically start these fires basically for as a need, really. Need to get rid of debris, need to prepare the land for agriculture. However, when these fires are left unmanaged or unattended, they basically, if they're near forested areas, these fires basically then get into these areas and continues to burn day in, day out. And with broadleaf species, really it's hard to really get these fires under control, because the fire basically burns subterranean, and it has that that thick organic debris that continuously burns, and that is what we saw last year, and that caused a lot of damage to our forests and to our wildlife.
And also caused health hazards too, because there was that thick smoke.
Yes, we had some very poor air quality last year. Actually, we have what is referred to as a purple sensor. It's an air quality sensor that is installed. We have one installed here in Baupan, and it registered some very, very poor air quality during those fires last year.
So let me, usually the year after a hurricane is a high-risk year for fires because of all the fallen trees and dead limbs that are in the forests. We had some floods last year. Does that also lead us to a high-risk year this year?
If I may.
Go ahead.
If I may. No, it actually can. And some people might believe that, oh, everything was flooded, so then we won't. It's not so. It's not going to be an issue. But if you've ever seen an area where a flood goes through, after a few months, that entire area pretty much dies out, right? And everything looks pretty much dry once that water has receded and everything goes back down to normal. And so that vegetation is dead. And what it does, it actually converts into fuel. So that's also something to consider, and it's a good thing that you brought it up, because we still have to become very cautious. We still have to be very aware of that situation, because it still becomes fuel. It's dead wood basically.
Wow. Okay.
And can we talk a little bit more about the impact of these fires, not only on the natural environment, but also on the communities of who may be living nearby fire-prone areas?
No, certainly. If I may, Mr. Chun, no, definitely. I think that's also something to consider. I think Mr. Chun brought up the fact that the fires are intentionally set. I would say they're intentionally set, not maliciously set, and that's where the difference is.
Yeah.
But a lot of these communities there are dependent on firewood as well, on the resources in the forest. And it's not only the wood, but there's also resources for construction. There's also some communities that depend there for game meat in some of these forests.
Yeah, he froze there just for a bit. Yeah. So, Raul, do you want to pick that up?
Yes, like what Heron was alluding to was the fact that we have a lot of communities that are actually established in what we call like a forest urban setting, especially in the south, where we have buildings made out of organic material, roofs and so on, wooden structures. These are not what we call fire resistant material, and so when you have fires coming close by, that's when you see the actual impact of fires on property, on life. We have fires actually affecting farms, where I think we noted last year around Baupan, an entire pumpkin patch, planting patch was basically disseminated, and this occurs all over the country, and really simple thing as putting in a fire line and actually having tools or assistance could easily help kind of put out some of these fires or manage these fires if the farmer would only take those steps in planning his burn.
So historically speaking, the worst year we've had for fires is 2011, but 2020 was very prominent as well in the number of fires we had. And if we remember, although it's hard to think of anything other than the pandemic in 2020, there were some massive wildfires in Australia and in the Amazon, and we had our fair share here in Belize. How is 2021 looking so far?
Well, the outlook based on the information from the meteorology services, it would seem that the temperatures for this year would be a little warmer than usual. I guess similar to 2020, while the rainfall would be normal to a little bit above normal, and these are for the months of March to May. Further down into the year, it gets kind of normal. So we may not see the number of fires as last year. Of course, these are just forecasts. Things can change. Human behavior basically, I might take this for granted and just be careless. And so what we ask is that if you need to burn, basically take the steps necessary to actually before you burn, so that we don't see a repeat of what happened last year.
And you spoke earlier about doing things like for farmers, like having fire lines to prevent or to contain some of the fires that are started. What are some of the other things that people can do that can also reduce the greater risk for these fires spreading?
Well, farmers can actually, before they burn, get a permit from the agriculture department to actually, before they set their fires, the department would send personnel to inspect and approve their licenses if the preparation is actually done according to the expectation of the department. Farmers are also encouraged to clean at least 6 feet of fire paths before they burn their milpas or their farms. It's a good idea to notify the neighbors, especially if you have farmers that are neighbors and they have crops. You'd want to inform them so that they can take the necessary measure, also precautions to prevent the fire from getting into the airline. Avoid the burning during the hottest part of the day. We consider that to be anywhere between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Why? Because the temperatures during these hours are high. The relative humidity is low, so ignition of any organic debris basically is quite possible. We also ask that you burn when there is very low winds. Wind really is an unpredictable factor. I mean, it can change. The direction can change rather quickly, the speed.
Which is why there's the forest forecast, right?
Yes,
to know when there are more ideal conditions or very dangerous conditions to attempt to start a fire.
Yes, but do recall though that fires create their own weather. So general weather forecast will give you a good idea in terms of what to expect, but the thing is on the ground, on the site, things can change really quick. So you have to be careful with that.
Let me get Haroon back into the conversation, because one of the things I wanted to ask, the Corozal Sustainable Future Initiative is interesting because you are a protected area, but you are surrounded as well by people who work in farming. And so it does become even more, I'd imagine, the threats for that particular area are managed by community engagement. So tell us some of the best practices that you guys have implemented there to cut down on the situation of forest fires.
Sure. Well, one of the reasons why we're here with Mr. Chun is because we are a support system for government, right? And government has been doing quite a lot to engage communities and NGOs like ourselves. I mean, we are some of the new ones on the block as compared to some of our colleagues in the south, like Tide and Yashched. These guys have been in fire management activities for a long time. So they have a much more developed program of fire management than we do. But back to your question. So what we're doing is basically just working on the success that the government and the department has had over the years in working with not only the communities but NGOs in developing different approaches, right? And one of those things has to do, for instance, with developing fire management teams or fire response teams in different parts of the country, which is a program that Mr. Chun is also working on and has been contacting other partners. And what that program does is seeks to establish capacity within organizations like us, as well as in communities. Tide, for instance, and Yashir again have a very good program where they engage communities, and what they do is build capacity with community leaders so that they too are able to respond to different emergencies. So we are actually doing the same thing as well, right? So some of those activities has to do with, one, equipping our rangers and setting aside a group of dedicated rangers that are well trained and know how to handle that fire. And although we manage the protected area, we try to operate outside of that area because oftentimes the fire happens right outside, immediately outside along the boundary. So it's important that we work with communities and teach them, okay, these are the basic tools that you need to be able to suppress a fire. This is how you avoid a fire. And then we put different plans in place, like encouraging them to form a group, a community group, and try to offer them the training so that they can then respond to even a community fire, right? And that's why the fire equipment is also very important, right? And so those equipment are also made available to communities in the event of an emergency. As long as they're trained and they know how to use it, then they can access those equipment along with a group of those rangers or the fire management program as well. So it's a lot, It's also about talking about the ideas of setting aside if they need to dispose of garbage, and in some communities people have no other choice but to actually burn, but to establish like fire pits, establish a little community group so that they can be trained, that they can monitor. Promote different practices like solid waste management, because that is also another big problem when it comes to fire. People, I guess we see it, sometimes we're embarrassed by it, but you drive through the country and you see garbage along the roads, along the forests. It's just communities don't have a proper solid waste management program, and so they dispose that along the roads, and some people even burn it, and then that creates another problem. So there's a lot. We do quite a bit, and you're right. We're kind of sandwiched between two big agricultural areas, and so it's quite challenging. But the only thing we can do is try to coordinate, build capacity within our institution, and then try to extend that outside.
I think you both documented the potential loss that can take place with just the natural environment, the natural resources we have, the threat it can have on homes, the threat it can have on your farming. On your farm, if that's what you're into. But there's also some loss of biodiversity as well. Talk to us about that.
Well, maybe at the national level, Mr. Chun can comment to that. In terms of our area, we manage an area of a little over 100,000 acres now. So we pretty much, last year alone, we lost about 2,000 acres. So that's like 2% in the loss of the biodiversity or the forest itself. So that's a significant loss, and that happened even with a very with a strong management fire management presence on the ground. right? A dedicated group of about 10, 12, 15 rangers at any one time fighting fires almost every day. So, I mean, you can look at that percentage. It can give you an overall look on what other areas are, but maybe Mr. Chun can comment in terms of what the last was at the national level.
Yes, thanks, sir. Yes, but yeah, Marlene, the fires actually have very significant impact on biodiversity and forests. It's not discriminate to any type of forest type or ecosystem type. It affects savanna, it affects grasslands, which are two of the most productive ecosystem types that we have in Belize. It affects the pine forest, and we are very reliant on on the timber that comes from these types of forests. And last year, like I mentioned, we saw significant impact to the broadleaf forest, which actually have species that are not resistant to fire or that are not adaptable to fire. And we have we have been observing in recent years, the significant tree kills that the fires have caused last year in the Chiquibul, in the Vaca, the forests around the Bangopan area or the central Belize area. Those are basically revenues or material that we could have used. It also affects the water retention capacity of the soil or of the forest, and that will basically affect water quality. But aside from that, it does affect the wildlife population. It has displaced species, especially arboreal species, and it has also affected the food to these animals. So it has great implications. It's something that we cannot really give a monetary value of, but
yeah, because it has implications far beyond. I thought of animals being trapped in fire, but I didn't think of their food source. That's a whole other dimension. Now, where are the particular hotspots? Where do you concentrate your efforts, knowing that perhaps there are going to be a number of forest fires that you will have to try to manage in the coming months?
Well, at least for us, our efforts are concentrated in the Mountain Pine Ridge, the forest department. Most of our staff and resources actually are deployed at the Mountain Pine Ridge, but we do respond to fires outside of the Mountain Pine Ridge area. Like last year, we were basically operating in most districts. As you may know, we have the Bangopan Central Office. We have an office up at Douglas Silva, Machaca in Toledo District, and Orangewack, we have an office there. So what we've done, or what we did last year, and we are basically improving on that, is the distribution of fire tools to these offices, so that those officers can lend support to organizations like CSFI, Machaca, Tide, and YCT. And the thing is, last year we saw the participation or the assistance coming from the south going to the west, where the YCT basically went to assist Benke, I think the community of Benke. But last year, at least on the fire maps that we generated, the hot spots were really in the north, around CSFI area, and also in Cayo District,
the West.
We noted a lot of fires in the Vaca, Chiquibol area.
Yeah.
Central Belize around Bamapan, and south. I guess.
Yeah, and I believe if I may interject, I believe that everywhere there has been an increase or an expansion of agriculture. That's where there's been hotspots. I mean, at least in our case, and we saw the trend because last year was, well, everybody remember, even everybody felt like the entire country, the entire region was burning up, and we were even having water bombing happening over Bangopan and all that sort of stuff. So the department and their hands really full. But with the expansion of agriculture, that it's really getting worse now because agriculture has really been one of the causes of the increase in fires as well.
Yeah, and you said everybody remembers. I think that maybe it is such a distant memory, but the good part is we're having this conversation now where we can hopefully advise people of the threats if they are going to use fire or they're going to expose wildland or areas that may be prone to fire as well. The other question I wanted to get some clarification on as we start to wrap it up is that you don't extinguish the fire. Fire management for forests, it's not about, you can't out the fire that's already burning, right?
No. Well,
it's
at least
managing.
for us, at least it is. You manage it, and that's why they call it's a fire management program.
Yeah.
And a lot of and the best way to manage these fires to begin with is to try to prevent it, obviously, right? And so there's basic practices that you have to do before you have a situation. So prevention is indeed better and much cheaper than cure, right? So it's about managing the fire, and even while you go about starting a fire, because sometimes you need fires, and especially in our system and in our culture and beliefs, we're still very dependent on fire when it comes to land clearing. It's still a culture that exists. It's still very strong. So it's about managing it. You don't go in and fight the fire. There are particular areas that you will have to actually fight that fire, but you don't just run into a big blaze there and you think that, okay, you'll pay Superman and just put it out. It doesn't work like that. So it really starts from the very beginning before it even happens. It's managing it, and then you take it through a process, right? Yeah. And then it goes from there.
All right. Well, as you noted earlier, Raul, it is important for people to, if they are going to use fire for, let's say, land preparation for agriculture, they must contact the forest department.
For agriculture, you contact the agriculture department.
Agriculture department.
Using fires for forest management, you contact the forest department.
Okay.
If you observe an unattended or unmanaged fire in a forested area or protected area, you contact the forest department.
And if people want to get rid of waste?
If people want to get rid of waste, you contact the Department of Environment.
Okay. All right. Well, we do hope that we have given very early advice to people so that they can be considerate. We don't, when the fires get out of control and we start to have that unhealthy air, that's when we suddenly are concerned about forest fires, but the prevention is so important as well. So thank you very both for telling us all about the work that you do and helping us understand how we can reduce forest fires.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right. Thank you, Marlene.
And we do want to note that this segment was brought to you by Red Plus through funding from the World Bank. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take our final break. And when we come back, we'll have our wrap-up, so stay tuned.
Hola, Tony.
Hey, Kevin, ¿qué onda? ¿Qué pasa?
Nada, le vine a buscar porque necesito comprar más mercancías de vasos y platos desechables para mi tienda de comestible. Me estoy quedando sin esas cosas.
No, hombre, fíjate que desde el 15 de abril no puedo importar nada de eso. Y se me acaba de terminar todo lo que tenía hace como 3 semanas.
Oye, pero nunca has estado sin esas cosas. ¿Qué está pasando?
Mira esto. Esta es la nueva ley que prohíbe todo el uso de plásticos no reutilizables. Esos son vasos, platos, cucharas, tenedores, todo eso. Desde 15 de abril de este año no he podido importar nada de eso. A partir del 15 de enero del 2021 nadie puede fabricarlo. 15 de abril 2021 nadie lo puede vender. Y a partir del 14 de julio del 2021, si alguien te agarra con eso, te multan.
Híjole, no sabía eso. Necesito cambiar algunas cosas. Les diré a mis clientes por qué esas cosas ya no están disponibles. Gracias, Antonio.
Así es, cuídate, man.
If we are only as strong as our families, businesses, institutions, and the communities that surround us, then by giving businesses the power to grow, entrepreneurs the ability to expand, and by giving our families the right to own something, the Belize Bank gives you the power to build a nation, our nation. We are stronger together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
It's a fact that you can access unlimited services with Smart. Tired of being measured or cut off when you need to be connected? It's a fact that when you sign up for Smart's Plus plan, you get unlimited talk, text, and unlimited data. And it's a fact that you can sign up with your group of up to 5 members for Smart's Share plans and up to 40 members for Smart's Enterprise plans for unlimited talk, text, and data. Smart has the true unlimited plans. That's a fact. Be smart and live smart.
And we're back.
Yep, and we are just wrapping up our show. After this morning's conversations, we want to say thank you to all our guests. We started off having a conversation about the proposed increment freeze and wage cuts for public servants, and in particular we were speaking with some teachers this morning from Mount Carmel High School. Yeah. So I want to say thank you to Miguel and Kelvin for coming in and sharing their perspective on this really important issue.
Yeah, it was great to be able to get some fresh perspectives on the issue, as we've been talking mostly to the unions. And I do want to say kudos to them on putting together the video to explain what the increment freeze means for individual teachers. Taking that kind of initiative is really helpful in keeping the public discussion going, and so that everyone can have clarity as well. We also want to say thank you to Ganesha and Carmelita to talk about social work, their lives as social worker, and the importance of this profession.
And finally, we want to say thank you to both Raul and Aaron from the Forest Department who came in to talk to us this morning all about forest management and fire management, because as we know, we are now pretty much in the fire season of Belize, which runs from February to May. We are in a pretty risky time, so it seems this year, so we definitely want to say thanks to them to for coming in and advising on ways that we can be safe in this season.
You know, it is difficult. Did you remember that we had bad fires last year?
Oh yeah, I did.
Okay.
You know, I mean, it's sad. Like one of the things that stuck out in my mind when we were talking about wildlife was that the kinkajou that they had rescued. I was remembering.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now, I mean, it seems like it was so long ago.
And
but
it was just last year. It was right. It was right pre-pandemic when we started feeling it here. I thought of the terrible allergies that the smoke caused, and I remember the conversation being around the fact that we're talking about keeping your lungs healthy, and here we are facing terrible forest fires. So I say all of that to say that it was only just last year that we had a problem in controlling the situation. So we're hoping that today's conversation on prevention is one that will resonate with people, especially in the areas that are most vulnerable, that you take extra precaution so that you don't contribute towards the forest fires that we do see.
No, absolutely. But that is all the time we have for today. And so if you want to contact us, you can send us an email at oie@channel5belize.com. You can find us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ, as well as Instagram at OIE Belize.
And you can remember to tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes.
And start your morning ride.
Until then, keep your eyes, your mind,
and your heart open.
We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, Belize.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.